Want help to grow your business? Download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.
Hi, I'm Margot Cairnes. Welcome to another episode of Grow Your Business. Today we're going to be talking about how to go from victim to victory in the digital age. Now, if I get very excited, please forgive me. I am very excited about this topic. See, when we're going into the digital age, we're going to have to embrace disruption. Everything around us is changing, and change can be both really exciting and really terrifying. And this episode is about how to deal with the terror so that we can use change to really go somewhere exceptional and to make our lives happy and full. So why am I calling it disruption? Well, the new technology means that everything is changing. And we have to change, but the irony of that is the best way to change is actually just to love and accept ourselves while hooking into the reality of life, which is at the moment a bit like a big kick in the butt for all of us because change is just so profound. You see, all the institutions of our society are changing. So think about marriage. You know, once upon a time we got married and we stayed married. Now we get married and we might be married for a bit, and then we go on the internet and we meet someone else and we marry them. So the whole thing, introduction of technology, has meant that our capacity to repartner has increased dramatically, and we're using it. They say that Facebook is now the divorce lawyer's friend. Financially, the whole financial system is changing with e-banking and peer lending. I think I've told you in a previous episode about my son-in-law who started a little business selling sandwiches online. He now is the financial system for most of the schools in Australia and is moving into another whole government initiative in Australia around e-banking. You go, how does that happen from making sandwiches? And how it happens is we learn, we grow, we change, we get on that wonderful big tidal wave of change and we make it our own. Politics is changing. We now have the 24-hour news cycle, and politicians are absolutely driven by public opinion and what's happening. The environment, the climate is changing. In my local newspaper today, it said we have 3 years before we're facing incredible environmental disasters. The way we socially interact is changing. This is fueled by the social media, where we talk to people often without actually meeting them. Online, through a whole range of social media apps, young people would actually rather text each other than actually meet each other. Things are changing, they're changing fast. Some of us don't go to work anymore, we work from home. Where we do go to offices, there are multiple generations. From the baby boomers, I think they call them the grey surfers, right down to people that are just coming out of school. There's the casualisation of work and the rise of entrepreneurship. Everything, everywhere is changing. And the challenge about that is that our brains are not made for change. We still, unfortunately, have caveman brain. And caveman brain, things didn't change very fast when you're a caveman. And the first part of our brain to develop was the reptilian brain, and that's this bit down here, the reptilian brain. And the reptilian brain really is about survival. It's very much our caveman brain. And survival is about fear. And when we're in fear, we only have 3 options: freeze, fight, and flight. Now, when we are in freeze, fight, and flight, we are definitely in victim brain. And when we're in victim brain, we are not well equipped to deal with change. And we'll have a look at this more later. But we don't have to be in victim brain. There's a whole other parts of our brain. And the first part here is the limbic system, which is the emotional, relational part of the brain. And we need that because, quite frankly, we're not dealing very well with change. 800,000 people killed themselves last year. We're now more likely to die from self-annihilation than we are from terrorism or any kind of environmental disaster. And we'll have a look in a little while why people do that. Well, the fear of change is so great, people actually wipe themselves out. So we need to really understand how to use our limbic system, our emotional, relational brain, so that we can self-balance. Well, in a little while, we'll see that that's called self-compassion, self-nurturing, self-authoring, so that we can comfort ourselves through this change, stay sane, and actually work towards being a victor. Then the other part of the brain is this part here, the neocortex, and that's the strategic reasoning part of the brain. And we really need to be switched on to both that strategic brain and the emotional relational brain so that we can not only survive change but thrive in it and really use it to drive our own happiness, our own success, that of our family, that of our community, and definitely that of the business. Now, there's a little trick here with the brain, and that is there's this tiny wee part of the brain up here in the limbic system called the thalamus. And a message comes up, some stimulation comes up, and it could be an external stimulation, a situation, something we read, something we hear, someone we meet, or an internal stimulation, a memory or some kind of feeling. And within a nanosecond, beyond conscious reasoning, the thalamus says, is this safe? Is this authentic? Is this familiar? Now, in this time of very rapid change, very few things are safe or familiar. Very few things appear authentic. So what that means is for most people, most of the time, they whiz down here into the reptilian brain, they're in freeze, fight and flight, and that's where they stay. So we know that Nokia had actually the majority of the mobile phone market. They knew about the Apple iPhone 2 years before the Apple iPhone was released. They could, with all their resources and all their success, have developed something of their own. The whole organisation went into freeze. They did nothing. And where are they today? So how do we use change to make sure that we're a victor, not a victim? How do we stay out of reptilian thinking? Well, the first thing we need to do is just know it's there. So know that we actually can go into fear. And when we're in fear, we're of no use to ourselves or anyone else. We shut down our emotions. We shut down our brains. We shut down our capacity to cope. We make ourselves sick. We might even self-harm. Because when we're in there, when we're in that victim mode, when we're in that fear mode, we find the world very unsafe, very unfamiliar. And unfortunately, for 75% of our population, that's pretty much where they are most of the time. They want to stay the same. They want to hunker down. They want to put back the clock. They want to fight change. They want to move backwards. So how do you know if you are in that place? Well, listen to your language. If your language is I should, I ought, I must, you're probably in victim. Or even more so, if your language is they should, they ought, they must, you're definitely in victim. 25% of the people embrace change. They learn from it. They grow on every level of their being. Now how do they talk? They go, I feel uncomfortable. I will do X, Y, or Z. I would like you to come with me. So they talk about how they feel. They know how they feel. They're in touch with how they feel. This is a key mover in mental health, to actually be in touch with our emotions, not to be emotional, not to kind of overreact or yell or scream, but to actually know, I feel unhappy, I feel scared, I feel frightened, I feel relaxed. A lot of us are not in touch with that. So if we're going to be in victor, we're going to need to know how we feel. And then once we know how we feel, make a choice. What am I going to do about that? And who would I like to bring with me? And then invite those people to come with you. It's all about creating a community. It's all about working our relationships. It's all about learning to understand and accept ourselves and reality on every level. Sounds pretty simple, and it really is, but it's not necessarily that easy. So what we're looking at all the time is how do we create a container? How do we create a container? Just moving backwards there. How do we create a container so that we feel safe, we feel authentic, we feel that change is familiar, and we can actually go up into our wise brain. We can manage ourselves emotionally, we can think strategically, and we can work our relationships. So how do I create a personal container? How do I contain myself? So these days we hear an awful lot about personal development, personal change, And I'd put to you, self-esteem is another thing. We've got to build our self-esteem. I'd put to you that perhaps we need to look at this a little bit differently. You see, all of those things were fine when change was slower. And we did feel more in control. So from the reptilian brain, self-change, self-development feels quite good because I'm sort of still in control. But once we get into this very rapid change, the truth is none of us are in control at all, ever, really.
To continue enjoying this presentation, download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.